Hi everyone, I'm Ivy, and today I'll be talking about the future of data in Web3. So I think what really inspired this topic for me was because I was actually a Web2 data analyst before I transitioned to Web3. And in Web2, I noticed that there were limited opportunities in the sense that you do a ton of work and the pay is very little. I remember my first job as a data analyst was about 30K, and I was meant to basically work on a data model. I was meant to also like do like data processing, and it took over a month, and I was paid 30K at the end of the month. But getting into Web3, I really love the flexibility in the sense that you can basically work on the dashboard and get paid as high as like about $400 for just one dashboard with little work. So I really love the flexibility of data in Web3. And with that, I will dive into my presentation. Okay, so I'm Ivy. I am a Web2 and a Web data analyst that is obsessed with marketing and SQL queries. So we'll be diving into like just a brief introduction of data, the bridge and the opportunities in data in Web3. Well, I think I would like to start by like getting an understanding of what you understand by data. I think whenever anybody hears the word data, they think of, let's say, numbers, or they think of, like, let's say, statistics. But data in itself is basically raw information. So think of data as something that you can make sense of. So something that's raw, I think that's basically unprocessed. I believe you all understand what Web3 is. So I won't be touching. Yeah. So I think a characteristics of Web2 or data in Web2 is that there's basically a centralized control of data, meaning that we have tech giants like, let's say, Google and Facebook being the one that basically control vast amount of data. For example, let's say you actually search for something like, let's say, a bag, and the next day you're seeing ads of, let's say, various bags. Has happened to you before? Has happened to you before? Like that kind of thing, right? And you're wondering how they basically knew that search for a bag, meaning that they basically have access to your data and you have no control over it. So that's basically a characteristic of data in Web2. And they have privacy concerns, meaning that they basically use your data and give it to other companies and basically make money from your data, leaving you like, let's say, behind and leaving you like, let's say, breaching your privacy. That's also a characteristic. And in the end, you own the data, but then you don't own the data as well. So like they're using your data and like they're giving you no credit for your data as well. Yeah. So now, when it comes to data ownership in Web3, you now become the owner of your data. That means you can basically control your data and I can even monetize your data. For example, now, because we are not a lot in space yet, you become an asset, for example, because basically you now make sense of data that nobody else can really make sense of. So like you become basically, let me say, a mind reader or a detective, basically making sense of things that people cannot ordinarily make sense of. Using tools like SQL, using tools like Python as well. So now, like I said earlier, you basically become an asset, and you now have access to, like, let's say, marketplaces, like, let's say, Flipside or even Dream. I cannot create a model from your data, meaning that you cannot basically create a structure and leverage what you create on in space. Now challenges now and opportunities. We have issues of scalability and we have issues of interoperability, meaning that because it's still relatively new, so there are still new concepts that people haven't like really tested waters on. And again, like when it comes to scalability, like working with large data sets and working with very cheap blockchain. Like now, I remember I was working on a project for Solana, and the data was so raw. So basically, having issues like make or cleaning data when it comes to the largeness of the data is a problem. Yeah. So now the opportunities in it, you can basically, monetize your data. You can now basically have structure, basically like, let's say, coming up with a DAO. Like it can be you and your friends, for example, like working on data. It could be a blockchain data now, and now even becoming like an advisor for even projects as well. Like I said, because it's still relatively new, so it's like basically a first mover advantage as well for you. So yeah, I think I'll wrap that up. Any questions so far? Any concerns? Anyone at all? Anyone? Any questions as to how you can even leverage that in your marketing or even in community management? Because I know the scope of even like social media management actually like leverages on data, meaning that you cannot even run ads using what you know from blockchain data as well. So any questions as to how you can even merge it to when it comes to marketing or when it comes to community management, I'm open to taking any questions. Okay.
Okay, so I have like two questions. So spoke about data, and my question is basically about AI. What role will AI play in managing and analyzing Web3 data? And I have this, there's always been like a question in my mind. I don't know how to ask. So I feel like some AIs are being updated, like chats, do you get? So they will like update it from time to time with new informations. So what is the chances that these informations are not being manipulated by the people who like collect this data? I know it might not be collected by people, like by systems that collect this data. So, and I don't know if you can answer the first question. So the second question I want to ask is, sorry. Okay, yes, data privacy. So as a data analyst, right, how do you manage a situation where there is an insecurity? Or I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Okay, maybe. Okay, so I'm trying to say that, for example, if an information that you encrypted is lost, because from what I heard in Web3, information cannot be rewritten. Once they are written, they are stored like that. So if there is any form of I'm struggling with saying this because I don't really know too much about data, right? And how data structures work. But if there's any form of data loss, how can you handle the issue? Or, yeah, that's what I want to say.
Okay, so if that's a whole lot. So okay, just rewind. So I think your first question was asking about the role of AI when it comes to data, right? Okay, let me give you an example. I think when the airdrop came out, I wasn't really so sure as to the queries to actually use when I was looking for like people that actually qualified for the airdrop and they hadn't claimed it yet, right? So I basically worked on like a rough sketch of like my own idea of what the right query would be like, and I basically like let's say key points like okay, like timeline. Okay, people actually like let's say use the bridge and everything, right? And I put it on ChatGPT to help me edit it, and it actually gave me the right query. Like it basically structured my query for me, like using a rough sketch of the idea. So now for me, I basically leverage AI to basically help me to like fine tune my queries, having like including like the key the key columns or like the key factors in them. That like so AI has helped me to like basically speed up my process when it comes to like data querying or like data processing. That's one thing. Then now for data loss, when it goes, it goes. Oh. When it goes, it goes. Oh. But I do know like when it comes to like let's say hack and everything, I know like there's a tool that I was trying to use. I think it's Metascript to like it basically helps to like see like when a hack happens and everything like that of that nature. When it comes to data loss, blockchain, it's immutable. When it goes, terabyte, that's one. That's it. I think that answers your question. Any more questions? I would gladly take any.
Thank you. My name is Kingsley, and I'm a business development representative. I wanted to ask, with regards to roles like biz dev, community management, social media, what additional data analytics skill do you recommend is relevant for those roles, with regards to making projections and forecasts?
Okay, that's a very lovely question, and I think I would use my previous role before. I was basically working for a company that was basically building something on Solana. So now, because I basically know how data works, for example, and they were trying to like build. Let me just change it. I don't want to disclose everything. Right? And like they were trying to build like let's say something that basically helps degens find tokens early. Now, I basically went to Solana like to analyze, okay, let me analyze how users behave when it comes to like, let's say, like certain tokens, when they are active, how they trade. I give them this data and they basically tweak their tool to basically find early tokens that people are buying early. So now because I understood how behaviors of users work, I can basically edit whatever they're doing and say, oh, like work on this, like add this feature, oh, they're most active then, okay, like they're struggling, like let's say buying a token early or sniping early. Because I basically analyze real life situations using blockchain, because that's one. Then if you are basically, let's say you are, let me say a community manager, for example, I would say having basic skills, like basically understanding how to use Excel, because there's no how, like basically want to keep track of your growth, for example, like, okay, how are mass coming in, from which channel, okay, like what is their behavior like, basically keeping track and basically analyze how you can basically grow in the long term. So like having skills like how to use Excel or how to like even like let's say visualize your data, that's like basic thing I would say for every community, like every manager should have when it comes to data analytics. So I think that answers your question. Yeah. I think that will be all. Okay, thank you very much.
Please, a round of applause for IB.